Hi, friends. We are so happy to be back with the episode Through Your Eyes that the Lord has put in our hearts, because it's so cool and so neat that there's two generations that get to seek the Lord and seek his wisdom for our lives. And obviously, you're going to have two very different amazing, interesting, and intriguing, right, viewpoints, because we're two different generations.
Yes.
But yet we get to seek God's wisdom and apply it, right? Even in the different generations and stages that we're in our life. And one of the things that we've both dealt with, Sarah, in varying degrees, right, is anxiety. And it's something that's become so prevalent in our society because we're finally, I feel like, giving it a little bit more of a focus, right? Or maybe perhaps giving it its place for the first time, because I feel like for a long time it was a taboo, no?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that people who struggled with anxiety before were maybe kind of just seem as dramatic or overdramatic, crazy. Yeah. I know I get my husband calls me overdramatic, so that's okay. I think everybody does that. Sure. But I definitely think that it's become more prevalent today than maybe it was in the past. And I do think technology has a lot to do with that, and just the influence of technology and seeing all these different things. And it kind of creates these sorts of expectations for yourself of where you should be or where you think you should be at a certain age or a certain point of life. And that creates anxiety, right? Because fear is rational. That at least that's how I usually think of it. Fear is rational. You know, if I see that there's a fire, a block ahead, and I get fearful, I'm afraid of something that's there. Anxiety is when you're stressing or getting fearful about things that aren't there. It's about things that haven't happened yet. These are all hypotheticals in your mind.
Figments of your imagination.
Right. And to a certain extent, it's healthy, right? Like a little bit of anxiety, I think, is good. I believe that God, right? Yes, I think that God gave us all of our emotions, and I think that he created us to feel them. So, I mean, if I'm anxious because I have something due next week and I know, okay, I need to work on it because it's due next week, I don't think that's unhealthy. I think that's good. That gets us motivated. That gets us completing things. Yes. When it gets unhealthy, I think is when you're almost being crippled by the anxiety. So I think it's when you can't do something, right? So like an anxiety that results in no productivity or activity, I feel like that's when it's getting unhealthy, because that's when your fear is just kind of overtaken.
Correct.
And
paralyzing you.
Right.
In essence.
Yeah.
Slowing you down from doing what you need to be doing or what you want to be doing or progressing in.
Right. It's like an obscene amount of doubts all the time. Yes. And then you can't actually do anything. So, and I think that God and the Bible has a lot to say on anxiety. You know, in the Bible, it talks a lot about fear and how God is always with you and God will never leave you. And I think, at least for me, I know my work has been a big point of anxiety for me, because that's something I really care about and I want to be successful in.
Sure.
And so really incorporating God into my work life has been really important for me. So when I start to feel that kind of buildup of stress or anxiety, like, okay, I'm going to pause and like read a verse and then I'm going to come back, or I'm going to pray about it. Like, I don't know, what analysis should I do on this? You know, I'm an analyst, but yeah. So I think God is in everything, and he will show up wherever you invite him. So just invite him into those moments of anxiety. And I think that really helps, at least for me.
Helps a lot, right? Helps a lot. He wants to be you reminded me, Sarah, of the beautiful verse that says, he wants to be a very present help in our time of need.
Right.
Or in our time of trouble. Or, call it what you will, in our time of stress, in our time of anxiety. Mm-hmm. I was reading about the difference between anxiety and panic, because, there's the whole concept of anxiety attacks or panic attacks. I have had one. And so I was a few years back, and I was reading about what the difference is, and what all of the psychology explains there is that panic comes suddenly, and you really don't see it coming, and you don't really have like a natural or normal explanation for it, versus an anxiety attack. So that's how I knew that mine was an anxiety attack, because I knew exactly that it was coming, and I knew exactly why it was happening.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Isn't that so
That
interesting?
is interesting. Yeah. So you could like feel the buildup happening with anxiety, whereas with panic, it's like it's almost like fainting. I faint a lot, so fainting. And that just happens.
And it just happens. You can't see it coming.
That's interesting.
And what you said is so very powerful, Sarita, because you were like, bring God in, invite him. He wants to be a very present help in our time of trouble or our time of need. And the fact that I got all the way to the anxiety attack tells me, okay. I need to do what you're saying and invite God in sooner while I see it coming in the buildup.
Right. Not
wait till I'm in a full-blown anxiety attack.
Yeah. I think, and that's a very like spiritual element. And obviously that, arguably is the most important element. But I think there's a lot of different things that can relate to that. Like I know for me, lately I've been going to the gym or I've been like working out before work as opposed to after. That's really helped me honestly get a lot of that. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm too tired to get us stressed or something. I don't know, but definitely working out has helped me keep calm at my job or at, different things that I have, eating clean. Your body, your physical body matters, right? Our bodies are a temple. And so what you're eating, what you're watching, what you're listening to, are you keeping yourself healthy, your mind and your body and your spirit? So
are we eating healthy? We try to keep each other accountable.
I think all that is integrated into everything I do.
So good. Absolutely. So there's a verse that's coming to me. You're bringing out and reminding me of all these verses, Sarah. And there's one that says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, present your request to God. And the peace of God that surpasses understanding will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. So is it that when I first had that first anxiety that built up into an anxiety attack in my case, that time that happened to me, should the anxiety have been a signal that tells me, look up, pray, bring whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
That's bringing me, like you said, invite him. Let's do this together, Lord.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that's bringing me the anxiety, let me look up and present the request to you.
Definitely.
So that the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will come and guard my heart and my mind in Christ Jesus. And that may have helped me a lot.
Definitely.
Right.
My favorite verse is Philippians 4:8. Meditate on things that are good, things that are true, things that are worthy of praise. Keeping your thoughts and capturing those thoughts, like how you just said, when they come, that's huge. But that takes a certain... I think you have to practice that. I was gonna say you have to get there. That's hard, and it's not easy. But getting in the habit, like you just said, when that thought comes in, okay, it's a signal. Okay, I know, Or for me, like I want sugar. I've noticed that. Like when I get anxious, I just want like candy. I don't know what it is, but I want sugar. So that usually indicates to me like, oh, okay, I'm not okay because all I want is like gummy worms. Something is wrong.
Something's a little off here.
Something is wrong. So being in tune, like you said, with your body and with your thoughts. Meditating on those things that are good. And that's why your gates are so important. Your ear gates and your eye gates. Are you spending time with the Lord? Are you seeing things that are pleasing to him? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to encourage you and lift you up? Do you have examples? Do you have mentors? Are you listening to the kind of music that music is big. What you listen to can make you feel a lot. So
yes.
I love worship and I'm big into music, so that really can affect you very much, especially if you listen to it all day long, like I do. So I think protecting your gates.
Alexa's usually working.
Yeah. And it's work. Everything we're saying is work. It's time, it's energy, it's being intentional with everything. That's a lot. It's way easier to just sit there and take in junk all day long, but what comes in comes out. So everything you're putting in, I think, food, what you're watching, all of it is going to affect you, right? And your emotions and how you're living your life. So it was so funny. I wrote Proverbs 31 like on my bathroom, so that every time I go, I pee like all day. So every time I go and I see it, I'm like, I remember, I remember all those things that like I want to be. And my little like mantra in my brain, I was like, okay, like it's time to level up. Like I want to grow, and I want to get to a new point, and I want to continuously improve myself. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to do that with my food, my ear gates, my eye gates, my thoughts, my anxiety, my heart, the people in my life. I've gotten a lot more selective about who I let in my life and my circle, because
it helps so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to be alone a little bit sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes that, helps me, like you said, like listen to a good teaching or a good podcast or some worship music. Why not? It edifies me. It's not a terrible thing.
No.
To be alone a little bit sometimes. Jesus did that.
Yeah.
He actually went away and got alone sometimes with the Father.
Definitely. And I think it's just important to remember, like, the anxiety, like we said, like, the anxiety is an indicator. The anxiety itself, it's not the problem. It's rooted in something. That's the problem. Like, that, you can't just be like, oh my gosh, that's just going to create more anxiety if you're having anxiety about the fact that you have anxiety. Gosh.
Now where do we end up?
That's dangerous. No, you have anxiety. It's an indicator. It's a, what are those like? The turning signal or like whatever. It's a sign showing you, okay, something's wrong. Let's get to the problem and let's resolve it. Let's look at it. Let's dig deep. Let's see what's happening here. But I think it's just important to remember, if you are feeling anxious, there's nothing wrong with you. There's just a deeper issue that you need to look into. Yes. That's all. It's a lot more simple than it sounds.
Yes, so absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something funny, but and an Inside Out too.
Oh yeah.
Anxiety actually, when she gets out of hand, she gets put in a little chair, sort of like in a little timeout with a little mug with anxiety tea.
And a massage chair.
And a massage chair. And sometimes God will do that.
Mm-hmm.
He will purposefully slow us down and say, whoa, this or that has gotten out of hand, and we are going to reel this back in, and we are going to pause.
Right.
And like you said, take a little time out, a little calm, and reevaluate, redirect.
Right. And
he does that, doesn't he, for us a lot of times?
Yes.
And watch for those signals from him. If we do that, you're going to see those so loud and clear in our lives. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, like you said, my health is speaking to me. Like, I feel my immunity. Now I'm getting to the point where I can feel that my immune system is being compromised if I've let anxiety run a little too long and take its course a little too far.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
And so,
it has a lot of effects on your body. Many effects. I know I've had friends of mine that have lost their cycles. I've had, there's a lot, stomach issues. There's so much. Anxiety takes such a toll. And like I said, it's not that complicated. And I think just going back to the basics, simplifying it, at least for me, has really, really helped in my life.
That's great. That's great. Going back to the basics.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I think that's a really good note to wrap this conversation. And anxiety, I feel like we can go on forever.
Yeah.
As a journalist, my whole life, I usually try to find somebody that is sort of an expert on whatever topic and interview them in a very official and formal manner. And there's a time and a place for that. But this is about real life application. It's about, 2 generations trying to do God's will and have an ear for what he's showing us in our daily life. And I know this is important because of how much we can connect with so many, at so many different levels. And so that's what Through Your Eyes is about. And so I want to go ahead and pray for our viewers. Lord, I just give you thanks and praise for your scriptures, where it says, be anxious for nothing. And then we're like, what do you mean be anxious for nothing, Lord? I can't control this. This is completely out of my hands. Well, yes, except the Lord can actually help us calm down, take those steps, those pauses, get alone with him, seek his will, seek his wisdom. He says that when we lack wisdom, we can ask him and he will give it to us generously. And when it says be anxious for nothing, right there in that verse, it says, bring your request to me, he says, so that my peace, which surpasses understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. And I want to pray that for our viewers. And I want to pray that with Sarah right now for all of the beautiful plans and endeavors that the Lord has before us. And for our precious friends out there, our sweet friends and our viewers. And I just want to lift out my hand to you and pray that we would allow our bodies to speak to us. The Lord signals us many times loud and clear. We can feel when our immunity is compromised. We can feel when the signal is look up and pray. Where does your help come from? It comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And I thank you that we can look at you and that we have access to you. My Lord, I know before I knew you, I remember praying to you and feeling like there was 800 echoes before it reached you, and then you showed me. And you gave me access to you through your word, that I can get to know you and that I can draw near to you. And you say in your word, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. So I want to leave our viewers with that. God bless you. We love you. We're praying for you. We want to grow together. And that's why we're here. See you next time. Blessings.